Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Abraham. I'm the PD coordinator at CRC, and I'd like to welcome you to the Fall 2020 Convocation like no other. We're going to begin and get started with Board Trustee Tami Nelson.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the entire Los Rios Community College District Board of Trustees, I am very happy to be with Cosumnes and staff today to help kick off what has to be the most unusual fall semester in the college's 50-year history. Convocation is typically such an exciting time filled with optimism and enthusiasm. This year, of course, the optimism and enthusiasm are mixed with uncertainty and trepidation about our public health dynamics and the resulting budget crisis, as well as a renewed urgency to address the systemic barriers that so many of our students face in their daily lives. In these complex times, my colleagues and I on the Los Rios board couldn't be more proud of the creativity and the flexibility you have all showed in our transition to remote operations and online learning. Pressed into action by circumstances beyond our control, you have all risen to the occasion. We know that you have never lost sight of what is in the best interest of our students, particularly those who need our support the most. And we try to find the best possible solutions among decidedly imperfect options. Now we start the fall faced with the hard truth that what we thought or hoped would be a short-term move to online teaching and remote operations may be a reality for some time. I cannot tell you how encouraging it is to see that in spite of all this, the spirit of innovation and the focus on equity and inclusion is very much alive at all our colleges. That commitment is more important now than ever before. And as we navigate all of this work for our students, I know that you're trying to manage the same dynamics in your personal lives. Many of you are caring for school-age children, like myself, or elderly loved ones, feeling anxious about the health and well-being of yourself or your friends or family, or just feeling exhausted physically and emotionally. I know that diving into a new way to serve students amid all of that is not easy. We appreciate everything you're doing to make it work for our students and for one another. My fellow trustees and I are incredibly proud of you. And it's obvious that throughout our colleges, we're accelerating our work to serve students, even in spite of once-in-a-lifetime challenges. When all is said and done, I'm confident we'll come out of this crisis stronger as an organization and more resolute in our commitment to serving our students who need us the most. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our Chancellor, Brian King.
Thank you, Trustee Nelson. We are so fortunate to have an outstanding Board of Trustees. In addition to Tami, we have other trustees joining this first ever Zoom convocation. Today, I'm going to talk about the moments that change everything, and great leadership provided by Tami and our board is so crucial to navigating these moments. All of us have had those moments in our lives when we know that something really, really important has just happened. And after that moment, you know that things will never again be the way they were before that moment. Everything has changed. Some of these moments are unexpected, and some are the result of careful planning. Some of these moments give us a completely new perspective on something we thought we already understood. Some are painful and stressful, and some of these life-changing moments are joyous. I want you to think for a few seconds about some of those moments in your life. A couple moments in my life come to mind when I realized that everything had changed. One of those moments came for me half a lifetime ago in March of 1992. I heard my doctor say 3 words that were totally unexpected and devastating. You have cancer. I will never forget the fear, uncertainty, and despair I felt at that moment. Another moment comes to mind about 7 years later in July of 1999. That was when I put my newborn daughter in a car seat for the first time leaving the hospital after her birth. It was so humbling to realize that this tiny person was so completely dependent for her growth and survival. I know that every one of you have had similar moments in your lives, moments that have shaped you and made you who you are, moments when you were faced with a choice and had to decide what you were going to do next. Every few years, one of these life-changing moments is a shared experience. Some of us remember when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon in July of 1969. All of us remember the shock when the Twin Towers fell on September 11th, 2001, and the unforgettable historic moment when Barack Obama was elected president on November 4th, 2008. Most of the time, years separate these life-changing moments we share together, but the last several months have been far from normal. It is sometimes a cliche to say that something is unprecedented, but two shared life-changing moments I am going to talk about today happened less than 3 months apart. Both moments have changed the future of Cosumnes River College, Los Rios, the future of California, and the future of the United States. And a third moment is coming later this year that will also impact all of us. The first shared moment happened in March on Friday the 13th. Many consider that to be the tipping point with regards to the worldwide response to the COVID-19 pandemic. That was also the day that we decided together in response to the COVID-19 virus that Los Rios was going to make an immediate transition to remote operations. Amazingly, together we made the transition to remote operations less than a week later on March 18th. Looking back, we could not have realized back in March the depth of the changes we would have to make in response to the pandemic. We thought then that many of the changes were short-term and temporary. And now, though we long for a return to face-to-face instruction and interactions, we understand that the changes we have made together will last through the fall semester and likely will continue into the beginning of 2021. At this point, we are preparing for a spring semester that will be more like this fall than a normal semester. Honestly, we recognize that some of the changes we made in response to the pandemic were long overdue. Critics of higher education sometimes accuse us of being bound by tradition and unable to make needed changes without years of study and committee meetings. To those critics, we have demonstrated since March 13 that we can make hard decisions quickly and without sacrificing collaboration and collegial consultation with stakeholders across our colleges. I am reminded of a quote by the great poet Langston Hughes. "I have discovered in life that there are ways of getting almost anywhere you want to go, if you really want to go." A crisis doesn't build the culture of an organization, but it certainly does reveal the culture. Many of you know how hard our 4 college presidents, the presidents of our collective bargaining units, and stakeholder group and Senate leaders have worked this summer. I encourage you to take a moment to thank the leaders who represent you when you have a moment. Many of the decisions have been incredibly tough and understandably unpopular. Together, we have made more difficult decisions in the last 6 months than we did in the previous 5 years or more combined. Should we offer face-to-face instruction for the fall semester? How do we reduce our budget in response to the economic devastation caused by the pandemic? How do we provide broadband access and laptop computers to students? The convergence of all of these extraordinary decisions with this new budget crisis has created the opportunity and indeed the necessity that we work together in ways that we haven't before. The second shared moment happened a couple of months into the pandemic on May 25th, 2020. The murder of George Floyd, sadly, was not unprecedented, but the reaction to his murder was something new. Those excruciating, unbearable minutes captured by cell phone video galvanized an understanding that a chasm exists between what our nation states as its values and the reality of the lived experience for Black and African Americans in this country. The murders of Ahmaud Arbery on February 23rd and Breonna Taylor on March 13th could no longer be swept under the rug after the almost universal revulsion to George Floyd's death. So in a little more than 2 months, we all experienced 2 life-changing moments. First, a worldwide pandemic, then an unprecedented movement for social justice. Both of these moments have shined a bright light on inequalities and racism in the United States. Both of these moments have presented challenges and opportunities for those Rios colleges too. We all know that simply offering thoughts and prayers and other words that had often been used in the past are beyond inadequate. We know that this moment calls for action and a willingness to be courageous in changing the systems that have resulted in unacceptable outcomes that have been accepted for far too long. So this has been a time of incredible action and activity, and the energy of the summer is going to carry over into the fall semester that begins Saturday for online courses. I want to share with you 3 areas where a great deal of work has taken place during the summer months. First, with respect to law enforcement, as you know, Los Rios has its own police department. Even before the tragic deaths of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd, LRPD Police Chief Larry Savage and Vice Chancellor Mario Rodriguez were leading important efforts to improve and reform our police department as part of a larger effort to end police violence in America. Some of you may have read about Campaign Zero, a national effort to reduce death and violence resulting from interactions with police. Chief Savage and the LRPD are committed to the policy solutions outlined by Campaign Zero. We all have a shared interest in making sure that our colleges are safe and welcoming places for all of our students, regardless of race or ethnicity. Second, the Los Rios colleges offer a variety of public safety programs, including administration of justice and peace officer standards and training programs, referred to as post-training. As a result, we have an extraordinary opportunity and responsibility to shape the future of law enforcement in our region and throughout the state. I'd like to thank our faculty and staff who rolled up their sleeves this summer to explore how we can be a positive influence on the hundreds and thousands of officers who have or will be a part of the educational programs at our colleges. We believe that the impact our faculty have on aspiring law enforcement officers can have a positive effect in changing a culture that too often exists within some law enforcement agencies. So the first two important efforts underway at Los Rios involve law enforcement and public safety. These efforts are very important, and the right people are engaged and involved and committed to fundamental improvements in both LRPD and our public safety education programs. While the focus on law enforcement and public safety involves a relatively small number of faculty, staff, and administrators, the third area of focus involves every single one of you at CRC and across the Los Rios colleges. Together, we are going to focus on improving the success of all of our students in the classroom with a focus on outcomes for Black and Latinx students this fall. 5 years ago, we developed the Los Rios strategic plan together, and our second goal was to ensure equitable academic achievement across all racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, and gender groups. So we have been saying the right thing for quite some time. The difficult question we have to ask ourselves in the wake of the recent catalytic moments is whether the actions we have taken in the last 5 years have been dynamic enough to be consistent with our lofty goals and values as stated in the strategic plan of 2015. Answering that question will require courage and honesty. I can't answer the question for anyone but me. And I have to tell you that I have not done everything I could have done in the last 5 years to make our stated goal of academic achievement, equitable academic achievement, a reality. At times, I've been hesitant to share hard truths because I feared they might make people uncomfortable or even angry. For example, I was aware of the overwhelming research that demonstrated that standardized placement tests result in underplacement of many of our students of color. But I waited until state law required us to make changes to shift away from the approach we had used for decades. I regret we didn't take action locally to move away from standardized placement tests sooner in support of our goal of equitable academic achievement. As the sociologist Michael Blakey said, a people who are truly strong should be able to look soberly at both their accomplishments and their problems, past and present. And that's what we need to do together. I want to thank and acknowledge President Bush and all of you at CRC for being pioneers in the Los Rios district. CRC moved towards using high school grades for placement before the state made that approach mandatory. And CRC has led our district with the implementation of opt-out scheduling, where new first-time students are provided a schedule of courses custom built for them to achieve their goals. Instead of forcing students to choose from a daunting array of hundreds of courses, CRC has built a process that uses guided pathways mapping to present students with a schedule designed to improve their success. And based on the success here at CRC, the other 3 Los Rios colleges are implementing opt-out scheduling. So I want to thank you for developing an outstanding approach at CRC that's going to scale at all 4 Los Rios colleges. Together, we can soar not just at CRC, but across the Los Rios district. I know many of you have read How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. Kendi makes a powerful case that it is not enough to be opposed to those who are explicitly, openly racist. The choice is between racism and anti-racism. The use of standardized tests is an example of the choice between racism and anti-racism. Because the use of standardized tests results in lower placements for students of color, Kendi would say there are two ways to interpret the policy of using them for placement. The racist view would argue that the students of color did more poorly because of some inherent difference in ability. The anti-racist would argue that the standardized testing policy must be changed and improved because all students, regardless of race and ethnicity, have the ability to succeed in college courses. During the summer, our 4 college presidents came together to establish 2 clear, focused student success targets for the fall and spring semester. The metrics are not new. Both are outlined as part of our collaborative approach to aligning with the statewide vision for success, the state chancellor's office ambitious goals for student success. The first target is to increase course completion for Black and Latinx students. The second target is to increase throughput by Black and Latinx students in transfer level math and English, which is just another way to say we want more students of color enrolling in and completing these courses. To establish the targets, the presidents first looked at the data of each of our colleges, and across Los Rios, the results for our Black and Latinx students in the last 5 years are not what we know they should be. I know you have had opportunities during Flex Week to explore the data at a college level and at a departmental level, and many of our faculty are also looking at disaggregated data for your individual courses. To help us examine and unpack our data and the realities before us, we are holding a town hall meeting on Friday morning, August 28th at 9 a.m., so almost exactly a week from today, almost at the same hour at 9 a.m. You will receive a Zoom invitation next week. If your work schedule does not allow you to participate live, we will share a recording for you to review later. Many of you have had an opportunity to meet Lasana Hotep and Cynthia Olivo, 2 wonderful colleagues who are going to help us translate our values of equity and inclusion into action as we address the differences that exist in student outcomes based on race and ethnicity, particularly for our Black and Latinx students. The town hall meeting on the 28th will be an opportunity for staff and faculty from across our 4 colleges to join together as we chart a course that reflects the urgency of this moment. As I noted earlier, we are also going to share a third moment in the coming months as the economic reality of the pandemic results in budget reductions from the state level that will likely be more severe than anything any of us have experienced in our careers. It is not clear exactly when that moment will happen. The state budget passed in July was a balanced budget in name, but in name only. The legislature closed a $54 billion deficit based on the impossible hope that Congress would provide enough pandemic relief to California that the state would not have to implement substantial cuts. Convocation is an opportunity to share optimism and excitement about a new year, and I am optimistic and excited. It is also my responsibility to share information about important statewide issues, including the budget. All of our college leaders and stakeholders have encouraged me to be transparent and direct about the reality of our budget and the challenges we are going to face together. As we begin a new year, budget reductions have already had a very unfortunate impact on our adjunct faculty and temporary classified employees. As a result of state law and our collective bargaining agreements, we are required to reduce part-time employees first when our budget contracts. It is difficult to hear and hard to say, but the level of budget cuts we are facing in the coming months will likely be deep enough that we will all be touched by them in one way or another. Many government organizations in the capital region have already implemented furloughs and other drastic measures in response to the economic and budget catastrophes. Our hope is to avoid those drastic measures at Los Rios. One feature of the California state budget approved by the legislature and signed by the governor is massive deferrals of payments to Los Rios and other community colleges. For those of you who did not experience the impact of the Great Recession on Los Rios in 2008, a deferral is a fancy way that the state says we don't have enough money to pay us. As a result, we have to use our reserves and borrow money to make our payroll. If the deferrals last through the fiscal year, as seems likely this year, it actually is a cut for the year in which the reduction took place. It's too soon to know how deep the additional cuts are that we will have to make together in this fiscal year and in fiscal year 2021, but we anticipate they could be the largest reductions, both by percentage and in total dollars, in the more than 55-year history of the Los Rios Community College District. So we begin this year together in the aftermath of two moments that have changed anything. First, a worldwide pandemic that has resulted in a rapid transition to online education and remote services. Secondly, a reckoning involving racial injustice and systemic inequalities that was catalyzed by the murder of George Floyd. And we are preparing for the impacts of a third moment we know that will come in the months ahead as a result of drastic reductions in state funding caused by the pandemic. Without question, the year ahead will be incredibly challenging for all of us. The stress caused by the pandemic is continuing. For some, the isolation and loneliness of living and working at home alone can be a tremendous challenge. For others, working at home with children either too young to be in school or beginning a school year with Zoom and parental supervision prevents entirely different challenges. And the same stresses of life that existed before the pandemic continue, often amplified in the series of cascading crises we are experiencing together. Illness, surgery, birth and death, divorce and marriage have continued in the crucible of a global health crisis. Whatever your personal situation is, we all share a tremendous opportunity this year, in spite of the challenges we face, to make changes for our students that will have lasting impacts this semester and for years to come. We have seen in the last 6 months how much stronger we are when we work together. We have demonstrated over and over again that we have the courage to find a way to do what needs to be done, even if we thought it was difficult or impossible before the pandemic. So much of what is going on in the world can make us feel out of control, but we do have control over how we work with students in our classroom and in student services, choosing to be anti-racist in our personal actions and in our policies. I encourage you to call me or email me at kingb@losrios.edu and share how I can help support you on this journey we're taking together. With that in mind, I want to close by asking you again to think about those personal moments and when you've experienced and the choices and decisions you made when you responded to the moment. It's hard for me to believe, but that newborn daughter I strapped into a car seat for the first time back in 1999 celebrated her 21st birthday last month. She's finishing her last year of college remotely, as are most California college students this year, and getting ready to begin a career as an elementary teacher. And strange as it may sound, being diagnosed with cancer back in 1992 has had positive impacts on my life in ways I could not have imagined in the dark days after my initial diagnosis. I appreciate that every day is a gift and that many of the distractions in life that can take up so much time just often aren't that important in the big picture. So thank you again so much for all you have already done on behalf of our students in this difficult, challenging, unexpected, unprecedented moment since March 13th, 2020, when a new reality began. And more importantly, thank you for the courage you are demonstrating to make hard, important changes for our students in the months and weeks ahead.
Thank you, Chancellor King. We truly appreciate your remarks. They were indeed impactful. Thank you for your leadership during this critical time in our district. Thank you for the vulnerability that you displayed today. We are all better today as a result of hearing your remarks. If you know how I'm going to start my welcome, quickly put that in the chat. But how I'm going to start is how I start every semester, by welcoming you, no matter what we're facing, what issues we are going through. When the dust settles, this is still going to be the best fall semester in the history of Cosumnes River College. At this time, I'm going to introduce our brand new manager. So if Rachel, if you could pull their pictures and their names up on the PowerPoint, that would be great. So join me in welcoming Bunny Amini, who is the Interim Dean of Science, Math, and Engineering. Welcome aboard, Bunny. Next, I would like to introduce Sabrina Guidi, who comes to us as our brand new maintenance supervisors. So please show some love and appreciation and a warm CRC welcome to Sabrina. And in a new role within our college, now Interim Dean of Counseling and Student Services, we welcome in her new role, Hong Fong. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for your work and your contributions that you'll continue to make to our managers team. And with that, I would like to introduce Julie Olson, who will introduce the new classified professionals.
Thank you. Well, welcome. My name is Julie Olson, and I'm the classified president. I would like to welcome back the faculty colleagues and classified members. Before I introduce the classified exec team and new classified members, I just want to say CRC has some of the best classified professionals in the district. Classified have been working nonstop this summer to provide assistance to students, faculty, and managers so that all parties are ready for the best academic school year in CRC history. I want to briefly introduce our classified executive staff: Miguel Limas, Vice President; Julia Villahuevos, Secretary; Janie Yang, Treasurer; and Jennifer Patrick, Past President. And at this time, I'm going to share my screen, let's see, and introduce our new classified professionals. We have Vasily Barinsky, Media Systems Resource Tech; Ariana Baspit, SPA for CalWorks; Randy Mitchner, Administrative Assistants for SBS; Linda Sack, Administrative Assistant for AME; Queenie Wong, Administrative Assistant for the Instructional Office. Welcome. Thank you. Have a great day. And now I'll pass it on to Greg Beyrer, our Academic Senate President.
Good morning, everyone. I have one new faculty hire to announce since we last met in spring for spring convocation, and that is Katie Wilson, our faculty researcher. So please join me in welcoming Katie to the full-time faculty at Cosumnes River College. Welcome, Katie. I'd like to now spend a few minutes talking about the Academic Senate. The Senate is the group of people, the Academic Senate is a group of people who make recommendations to our administrative colleagues and the Board of Trustees on academic and professional matters. We do the same thing at the district level with our Chancellor and also at the state level with the Board of Governors and the State Chancellor. The leaders of the executive team for the Senate are here. You see their names. Scott Crozier is our Vice President. Teresa Aldridge is our Secretary. And our past president is Julie Oliver. We faculty are very fortunate to have these folks helping me as your Senate President. Starting tomorrow, when the semester officially begins, all four of us are teachers, and Teresa is also a counselor. If this were a traditional convocation, the four of us would be standing in front of you. But instead of doing that, I'm going to show you what our students will be seeing when they look at us inside Canvas. These are our profile pictures from Canvas. And of course, the four of us don't determine the recommendations. We do that with the help of the Academic Senate. And these are the names of the academic senators. They represent adjunct faculty. They represent the full-time faculty in our career and academic communities. They are the chairs of our Academic Senate subcommittees, and they are the faculty tri-chairs of our participatory governance committees. And the Senate meets regularly, and we are the group that make those recommendations on academic and professional matters. But they cannot do their job unless every one of us, members of the faculty, do our job. And that is participate in shared governance committees, whether we are members or we are supporting the work of the committees. That means communicating with our senators that are representatives and participating in their communications with us as they seek our participation and feedback on matters before the Senate. Because the work of the college continues, now more than ever, our voices, our participation, and our service matters. Because we know that this will end. It will be safe to return to campus and teach all of our curriculum and provide services to students in person. We will see a restoration of our budget. And we will have a college that is designed not to serve all of our students, but to serve each of our students. So when CRC is celebrating its 75th anniversary, there will be a chapter in that history about the triple crises of 2020. And in that chapter, there's going to be a section on the role that the faculty played in helping the college endure these crises. Right now, we are writing that chapter. Together we soar. Thank you, and it's back to President Bush.
Thank you, Gregory. That excellent remarks. Rachel, if you could go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint. Yeah, this is an important convocation. I'm starting off slow because I had all the intentions of knowing how I wanted to start and where I wanted to pick up from. But something happened when I pressed the mute button. And I believe just all of the emotion, stress, challenges, adjustments that we've had to make since March, I think just began to hit me all at once. And I could imagine the amount of pressure that all of you have experienced and are experiencing as you begin to prepare to do something that you may not have done before. Perhaps it's your first time teaching online, your first time providing a service and support online. And all of you, all of us are perfectionists. We want to do our very best for our students because that's how much we care about them and care about our institution. And as I begin to feel the pressure, and as I imagine that you feel the pressure as well, the only thing that I could think of right now, because it's not something I thought I would address this morning, it's the only thing I believe that we can rely on or to lean on would be us to collectively pull and to support each other. This is not a time for blame, but it is a time for us to take ownership of the work that lies ahead of us. And it is a time for us to have an extraordinary amount of patience and grace for each other as we all try to figure this out. And I have no doubt that we will. You have always done that, CRC. That is your history. That is your legacy. You have proven each and every time you are able to meet the moment. And I am extremely confident and humble to serve at an institution with colleagues that I know are capable, that they have the competency, But what I'm finding is that the most essential quality that you have is the compassion to serve and to do right by our students. No matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on, no matter your ideology, your political or your social belief, I think all of us fundamentally are good people with good intentions that want to see our students succeed and are committed to CRC being the preeminent community college in the nation. So we won't fall. We won't fall is an initiative, and you're going to hear a whole lot about that, not only today, but throughout the semester. But it is more than that. It is even more than the 13 targets that you had a chance to look at that was sent to you in your email yesterday that undoubtedly we would talk more about today, and I even would talk about it in my slides, but it is more than that. We won't fall is an affirmation. It is a recognition that we cannot, that we will not do business as usual. Too much has happened in this country, too much has happened in this world, not only recently, but historically, that suggests that we cannot simply perpetuate the status quo. That in order to meet this moment and this time that we're in right now is going to require for us to use our collective expertise, wisdom, knowledge, and our collective courage to do really hard work. We won't fall also suggests CRC that failure is not an option. That this is not the time or the moment where our students who already have been struggling and who already have somewhat fallen behind in comparison to their peers, this is not the time where we could lose traction. We have done great work, CRC. Hats off to all of you. We've made tremendous strides. We have closed gaps in achievement. But we have to, and we will do more. We will lean into our innovation. We will lean into our equity work. We won't fall, CRC. In fact, we will use this as an opportunity not only not to fail, but to soar. Next slide. Rachel, please. I want to start where I picked off last semester. If we recall, we started the spring semester, which was the best spring semester in the history of Cosumnes River College. And we started with this theme of gratitude, of me really offering my appreciation and extreme thanks to all of the work and effort that our faculty and classified professionals and our administrators have placed within our institution to take a step back to appreciate and acknowledge all of our work and our accomplishments. I had no idea at that time what challenge would lie ahead of our institution with the pandemic of COVID-19. And I would like to say that I was surprised by our institution's response. I would like to say that I was surprised by your efforts and how quickly you were able to make the transition from on-ground courses to remote learning. I would like to say that I was surprised that some career and academic communities met on Saturdays so you could support each other in moving your classes to make the transition. I would like to say that I was surprised by our talented IT staff and distant education team and our library, our librarians and our counselors when they were able to adjust to provide academic and student support services to make sure that they were able to roll out professional development to those who needed additional information and expertise to move their classes and their services online. I would like to say that I was surprised and with the speed that we were able to get devices in the hands of our students who needed it the most. But the reality of it is I wasn't surprised at all, because CRC, that is what it is that you do. That is who we are. That is who you are. So I'm thankful for all the work that you have done and continue to do to make sure that we maintain a level of quality instruction and academic and student support. So I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you, and next slide. COVID-19 is not going to stop the party. It's not going to stop the party. We have a lot to celebrate. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary at CRC. Past Forged, Futures Discovered is our theme as we celebrate 50 years at CRC. You would get more information in detail about each of the activities, virtual activities that we have planned for you, but I wanted you to be aware that we have a lot to be thankful for as we celebrate 50 years of service to the South Sacramento and Elk Grove communities. So stay tuned as you get information from our anniversary committee headed by Michelle Steiner of the awesome work that we have planned for all of you over the course of the fall and spring semester. Next slide, please. Also, speaking of soaring, within the last 2 months, we received, or last month, some great news on the grant front. CRC, we have been extremely aggressive in going after federal dollars. And in the light of the anticipated budget cuts, it's more important now than ever that we really seek to get outside revenue to continue to support many of our innovative practices and efforts that we have established at Cosumnes River College. I'm happy to announce that we received our first HSI grant through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We're still writing for the big Title V grant that comes from the Department of Education, but this is the first grant we receive once we earn our eligibility as a HSI institution. Hats off to everyone who worked on this, Alex Casareno and his team, outstanding. We will get, over the course of 4 years for that grant, $250,000 to do some work in our career and technical education centered around our work in agricultural areas. Also, we received not one, but 2 new federal TRIO grants, student support services that's going to serve our most vulnerable student populations at CRC. Each grant is worth $1.3 million over 5 years. So congratulations again, Alex, Raul Pasamonte, and all those, Tadiel, our institutional research team, for your awesome work. So we have close to over $2.6 million in grants going into this next academic year. And hopefully over the course of the next couple of days, we'll get some good news about other grant proposals that we have submitted. Next slide. You heard Chancellor King begin to talk about the uniqueness of this semester and the intersections of the 2 pandemics that we are grappling with, in fact, that our country is still reeling from. And those are the pandemics of COVID-19, as well as the pandemic of the long-standing practice of institutionalized and structural racism that has impacted people of color in this country since the existence of the United States. We understand that CRC doesn't exist in a vacuum, that the issues that we face as a country impacts us as a institution. We still see thousands and thousands of people dying from COVID-19. We look at the unemployment rates skyrocketing. We look at the economic downturn. All of these things hit home. We have family members, we have students who are being impacted, who have lost their jobs, who've been displaced from work and having their hours reduced, who are now having to be a teacher at home while they are a student at CRC, or we have faculty and classified professionals that are being challenged in many of the same ways. And COVID also began to lift the veil for many around the huge racial disparities that we continue to see in this country. When we look at those who have been particularly impacted, when we look at who's dying disproportionately from this disease. And we're also dealing with a pandemic of institutional racism, with the deaths of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd have been painful reminders of the work that's yet to be done in this country to address the plaguing issues and problems that we have seen over many years. These pandemics has caused institutions across this nation to begin to reassess and re-examine how have they perpetuated institutional racism and what has been their role in producing inequitable outcomes. And our institution is no different, CRC. We also have to do a deep examination around our policies and our practices, where we may have intentionally or unintentionally erected barriers that have made it difficult for our students of color and other historically marginalized communities for being successful within our institutions. So our goal is clear as we move to the next slide. We have to make a bold stance, a bold proclamation. And I think we have faced this, but also I think we have danced around this somewhat as well. Is that we have sought to make marginal gains and increases, that we have looked to do some reform efforts to improve outcomes for our students. But I don't know if we have said explicitly what it is that we need to do in our institution for all of our students when they step foot on the campus to believe that they have an equitable opportunity to live out their dreams, to meet their potential, to reach and hit their educational goals. In order to do that, I think it's important that we are crystal clear about what our work is, not what our job is. I often say, do not allow your job to interfere with your work. That we all have a job to do, but our work has to be around this idea that we can and we will eradicate institutional racism in all forms of structural inequities as they manifest at CRC. That we will assert, that we will use our sphere of influence, that we will control the spaces in which we occupy and make sure that we will eliminate and eradicate structural inequities as it shows up in those same spaces that we occupy. That we don't place blame, but we take ownership, and that we can assert that it is possible for us to teach differently, that it is possible for us to lead differently and to serve differently by making sure that we are not perpetuating racist practices and policies that are leading to disparate outcomes for our students. And how will we do that? We would do that by looking to redesign and not to reform. And we would do that when we eliminate a bystander culture. Next slide. I often liken anti-racist work to being a part of a 12-step program. And I'm not making light with those who are struggle or need 12-step programs to recover and heal from addiction. In fact, it is so important. That's why I believe this analogy works. In anti-racist work, and also within the work of a 12-step program, I think it's important for you to speak the truth. Usually in a 12-step program, you have to confess, you have to own what it is that you are addicted to. And with the convocation confession, given the unprecedented nature of this semester, I don't have just one, but I have two, because there's a couple of things that I need to confess. If I'm going to transition my leadership to meet this particular moment. One, I have to acknowledge and confess that I have been complicit in perpetuating racism, that I have a leadership role. And in fact, I have the head leadership role as president of Cosumnes River College. And during my time in this role, that we still continue to underserve and not meet the needs of our Black and brown students. That I continue to implement practices and policies that I know, that we know, that are not closing the opportunity gaps that exist within our institution. That we have to operate in that truth, that we are working in a racist institution. We cannot change it unless we are willing to call it out. We cannot change it unless we're willing to be introspective and to be able to examine ourselves at a personal level to see how have we contributed to perpetuating a racist structure. Secondly, I have been too focused around managing the comfort levels of others, that I have not fully leaned in to the anti-racist work within our institution. We've done some of it, absolutely. How we talked about race and achievement, of course. How we talked about equity on more than one occasion, absolutely. But it has been sanitized, and that's on me, and that's my fault. Is that I have not trusted you enough, that I have not put enough belief that all of us have the ability to deal with the complexities associated with having a conversation and to do work around race. So I don't want to upset too many people. I didn't want to turn folks off. I wanted to make sure that everyone was coming along in the conversation. Wanted to operate at a pace or a clip where people didn't get disenfranchised or get offended, and simply we don't have that type of time. We are operating with urgency and immediacy because we literally have students who are suffering and being brutalized within our institutions while we're trying to manage our comfort. I recently heard this statement from the president of the University of Laverne, and she said this. She said, growth begins when comfort ends. Growth begins when comfort ends. And so we have to be willing to be uncomfortable. We have to look forward to the opportunities where we have to shift in our seats, that we may have to think before we talk, that it would challenge us to examine beliefs that we may have held in our entire lives. But as a college community, that's where the work is. It's the intersection between the anti-racist work and doing the things that we know is right, and between our own comfort. And we have to push through the discomfort. I have to push through the discomfort. Next slide. I don't expect you to read all that. This is the data that we showed, and thank you all for your participation in the 2 town halls we held over the summer, shortly after the murder of George Floyd and the social uprisings that occurred. And we share some data points about outcomes for our African-American students, and you can see that. And the reason I put that there, because I need you to be able to see what structural racism looks like. Dr. King, Chancellor King, talked about Kendi's definition of racism, and I want to expand on that just briefly. And so Kendi talked about what a racist structure, the definition of a racist structure, and he said it this way: if you have a structure that is producing disparate outcomes for a particular population of students or individuals based on race, then only one of 2 things can be true. Either you believe that there's something inherently wrong and are deficient, in this case, by that group of students or that particular population of students, or something is wrong with the structure. And if you believe that something is wrong with the structure, then the structure is racist because it is producing inequitable outcomes for students. And so when we see the outcomes, because I do not believe, and I know all of you do not believe, that there's something inherently wrong in this case with African-American students. And if we assert, if we believe that, then we're saying then the structure based on what it is that we have in place or based on the outcomes, it is racist. So that means we have to change the structure, that we have to reimagine, re-engineer, and be innovative about not only dismantling the structures that are producing the outcomes that's on your screen right now, because it's not enough just to dismantle. It's a great start, but we also have to be creative enough to create a new structure, a new set of policies, a new set of practices, simply a new way of teaching, a new way of learning, a new way of engaging students, a new way of counseling and servicing students, a new way of tutoring students, because anything that is producing these results does not need our protection. To maintain the status quo is to perpetuate racism. To maintain the status quo is to perpetuate racism. To maintain the status quo is not going to allow us to be responsive to the needs of our students during the pandemic of COVID-19. Next slide. So I mentioned, and I need to move a little quicker, that is not our work to reform. We have done a great job of reform at CRC, and I applaud us for that effort. But we have to take, I think, a new perspective. We have to examine reform, then move to redesign. Fundamentally, we got to look at redesigning our institutions, because we understand that when our system was built, it was not designed for all students in mind. So I want to offer this quick example, and you could look this article up on your own, but there's countless other articles that talks about technology and racism that exists in technology. And just Google racism in technology, you would find those articles. This particular article came from The Guardian, a newspaper out of the UK. And this article looked at autonomous driving specifically, but in general, looked at designs of what was called machine visioning. So machine visioning is the technology that goes into facial recognition. So when you want to get access to your iPhone, it will look at your face and then your iPhone would unlock. It is the technology that is used when you go into the restroom and you put your hand under the dryer or the sink, motionless, it turns on. But it is also the technology that is used for driverless cars, autonomous driving vehicles, to be able to pick up images or pick up the human form. And I think all of us will understand the importance of that technology in a driverless car, because if it doesn't recognize a human, then you literally could lose your life. You could be hit by that vehicle. This article talks about, and other articles talk about some studies that were done with machine visioning. And what the study revealed, and this particular study was done by Georgia Tech, is that in autonomous cars, for example, that there were 10 to 30% less likely to read the image of dark-skinned people, so Black and brown folks, to read those images as being human. Let's pause there for a second. That the machine, right? That the machine visioning technology failed to recognize and to see Black and brown bodies as being human. So how is that possible? And I'm glad that you asked that question. It's because it was flawed in the design. It's not the machine fault, but it is the fault of the designers, because in order for the machine to learn, the designers show thousands of images of people. So the machine can begin to identify what a person looked like. And when they show those thousands of pictures, the majority, the overwhelming majority of the pictures they show were pictures of white individuals. So in the design, the machine had no problem, right, logically, to identify a lighter skinned person as, or a white person as being a human, because that's the images that they were shown. So when the designers had in their mind a prototype, because everything is built with the end user in mind. So when this system was designed for the autonomous driving vehicle, the prototype, the norm of a person was someone who was white. And the designers had blind spots because all of the designers were white. And so it didn't even occur to them, that I imagine, that they needed to include a diversity of images so their own design would not be flawed. So when we talk about issues of faculty diversity, it's not just so our demographics will look good. Because if we don't have diverse faculty and diverse classified professionals and diverse managers around the table, then when we go to design something, something will be missing. We will have blind spots as an institution that would lead to the failure of all of us. And so our institution, our college, and our colleges has been designed based on the same prototype as the design that has gone into machine visioning. That's why we see the outcomes that we see. It's not because our white students are any smarter than our API students, our Latinx students, our African-American students. The reason why we don't have more Black and brown faculty is not because there's something inherently wrong with Black and brown people who seek to come into the academy, it's because the system was not designed to see them as being fully human. So our job, CRC, is to be able to see each other. It's to be able to recognize the faces that we come in contact with. It's to be able to recognize the bodies that we see that occupy our classrooms and our service counters. And now on our computer screens, that the diversity of faces has to be the norm, that we can't reform something that is broken. That's like saying the answer to the design flaw of the driverless car is to tell dark-skinned people to wear light clothes every time they leave the house. So let's redesign the system. You're going to be engaged with strategies as part of the Won't Fall initiative that's not going to ask you to reform, it's going to ask you to redesign. And so it's going to challenge us in ways in which we haven't been challenged before, but it's necessary for us to be able to see everyone as human and then to build a structure around that. Next slide. We talked about part 2 to this work is to eliminate bystander culture. 8 minutes, 46 seconds. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That time for many of us will be permanently imprinted on our psyche. That was the amount of time in which the officers had their knee on the neck, back, and legs of Mr. George Floyd. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It doesn't seem like a lot of time outside of context, but within the context of having your life slowly ripped from you, 8 minutes and 46 seconds seems like an eternity. In fact, there was enough time for Mr. George Floyd to plead with the officer and tell them that he was not a threat. It was enough time for him to call and ask for his children. It was enough time for him to articulate to the police officers that he could not breathe. It was even enough time for him to call out to his deceased mother because he knew it was inevitable for him to transition. And so, of course, when I watched this video, I was angry, I was upset. Like many of you, I was disturbed. And immediately my anger was towards those officers that physically had their knee on Mr. George Floyd. But as I began to process the video a little longer and began to think about this, my anger quickly also got directed at the many officers who stood around for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and did not do anything, did not intervene, did not grab the shoulder of the police officer, did not seek to try to get George Floyd off of the concrete and just put him in the police car. What was it about the culture that existed within that police department where it was not okay to speak up? What was it about the individual standing around where they did not have enough compassion and our courage to be able to stop the death of a human being? CRC, we have practices and policies that have been around for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years that has caused harm on Black and brown bodies. Many of us still sit by and we continue to work and implement and carry out
those same practices and policies that are causing harm to our students. Let's not get it confused. Students not graduating is harm. Students who are failing are harm. Students who don't see themselves in the curriculum is creating harm. Students who don't see a reflection of themselves inside the classroom or at our counters is creating harm. So I think baseline, we take an educational Hippocratic oath that we would not perpetuate harm to our students. But I think even more so, we take an oath and the commitment that we would no longer be bystanders, that we would no longer be worried about managing other people's comfort in lieu of saving someone's life or their life's trajectory. CRC, we would no longer be a culture or community of bystanders. We will speak out and do the hard work of not continuing deleterious practices that is harming our most vulnerable student populations. Next slide. And we're not going to go over the 13 targets. I ask that you review it in your emails, but it is an urgent and immediate plan to address structural racism in a time of pandemic. We are going to be proactive in this space. We are going to be innovative in this space. We have the collective expertise and wisdom on this call within our institution to dismantle and deconstruct institutional racism. We have the capacity and expertise and the courage to improve outcomes for African American and Latinx students. It's unacceptable for there to continue to be 10 and 20% opportunity gaps among our student population. We will change that. And we will change that not 5 years from now, not 3 years from now, but this semester. Because time is of the essence. 8 minutes and 46 seconds created opportunities to do something. This fall semester creates the same opportunity for us to intervene. You can flip through the next 2 slides. Yeah, the next. Hoping we all review it. So we end as we would start CRC. Failure is not an option. We simply would not fall. We would not continue business as usual. We would not fail each other. We would not fail our students. We assert and we affirm that in the fall of 2020 will be CRC's finest hour, that we met the moment, that we took on the challenge head on, that we was not scared to live in the truth. We were unafraid to do the hard work to redesign our institution and the internal work not to be a bystander. So as I leave CRC this moment, I leave you with this. We will soar. We will soar. Thank you for your time.